I want to know how you got to this path with this mindset that you have and the skill level you have, and went down you chose a hard road. You had a certain path, then you chose a difficult path in special forces, and I just want to know how that went down.
Man, every path, right, starts off with a purpose. And, my purpose was, and I'll tell you, I was defeated at one point in my life, especially in childhood years. And the reason why I said this is, I was born in war. I was born out of Vietnam. I was born on the losing side of the Vietnam War. I was born in Saigon, at the basement floor of the Saigon hospital. The morning of my birth, my mother shielded my body from incoming artillery fire. At 3 months old, I lost my freedoms to the communist regime, and we lived in oppression until I was 3 years old. Now, when I say that is during the initial invasion, the North Vietnamese took out anybody that was in position of power. So my family served alongside the Americans, and they were immediately executed. My uncles were immediately executed in the streets. My other uncles were imprisoned in re-education camps. We were oppressed. We were facing genocide. You could read about it, in the histories. Our lives were not even worth a bullet. They would bag our heads and suffocate us in the rice fields. At 3 years old, my mother, my father, and my brother, we escaped on an overstuffed wooden fishing boat with hundreds of thousands of other fleeing refugees in that time. During that time, a lot of the neighboring countries would come in because they knew there was a lot of fleeing refugees, and they would stop our boats, board the boats, kill the men, rape the women, and torture the children. It
Jeez.
was common practice amongst fleeing refugees to carry poison within their belongings, and the poison was given to their children once that journey ends for them. So they won't endure such a torturous death. We somehow we navigated out of Vietnam, and we made our way into Malaysia, where the Coast Guard stopped us at gunpoint. They told us that we're not welcome in their country. They're not accepting any more refugees. They
How old were you at this time whenever you were fleeing?
3 years old.
Okay, so you remember some of this.
I remember it's like a dream, right? That I had to ask my mother about these dreams or visions as I was growing up, and then my mother would tie it to a story, right? And my mother made sure that we never forgot, So as I was raised, it was
You've already said so many powerful things just in this conversation, man. Like starting your life with that level of oppression, getting rid of the men in your lives, the men that could train you and raise you to fight against that type thing, and then your mom just then telling the stories about the oh man, it just this is you're I think in a non-violent sense, we're seeing a lot of that same thing right now.
yeah,
The same similar attacks, just
yeah,
it hasn't got that violent yet. And
yeah,
man, you started that way, seeing it. Oh, I'm sorry.
absolutely.
Continue.
And that's the big thing was like during that initial oppression was that they made the South Vietnamese people that were defeated to rely on the North Vietnamese structure, their government system, right? Oppression. And as a special forces soldier, I can tell you that's oppression. That's how, we battle against
You have a
that.
motto that says
The
that.
freed, the freed enslaved, the oppressor, the liberator. But getting back to the stories, we're being oppressed and we're escaping for our lives, and we're being pursued. The North Vietnamese didn't let us go. We had to escape. So we made our way in Malaysia. They stopped us at gunpoint. They anchored our boat, drug us back out into South China Sea, shot our motor, cut the line, and left us there to die. My mother said that we drifted, and it got really desperate. People were dying on the boats. When I say this, is this fishing boat normally fits about 40 people. We had over 100 people on this boat. We were on the bottom deck of the boat, sitting up, right, upright, jam packed into the boat. Rich was in there with the poor, right? Everybody was just trying to escape. The smell, the stench, the desperate situation, right? Can you imagine that? So people were dying on this boat as we're drifting. So
I
they,
can't even imagine that, man.
yeah,
And I've seen some horrible things in my life, and I can't. Yeah.
right. And my mother, you know, that she said that people were fighting, killing, you know, they were just trying, it was a survival situation. My mother drank her own urine. You know, that's how bad it got. We were dehydrated. Um, we drifted out for 30 days out in the ocean in the South China Sea. Now, my mother lost hope. She told me that she contemplated on giving us poison because we had no food, we had no water, and it was just a matter of time before we die. And then she said that she prayed that night, and then a storm came in. Imagine a tropical storm in the South China Sea in a fishing boat with no motor, right? This tropical storm, it could have easily just capsized our boat and we all died. But
Yeah.
somehow a miracle happened. And my mother said that, you know, the rain brought us more, you know, water for us to live for a few more days. And she said that one night there was a spotlight that hit our boat. And I remember this vision. I always remember like a vision of light going through the crack of a boat. And I just never put it together. Well, what happened was we were on the bottom deck of the boat. A Russian supply boat was leaving out of Vietnam, saw us, hit us with a spotlight, and that was the light that we saw shine through. And I tell you, man, you know, the Russians, you know, we read history, man. We're Americans. We know how cruel the Russians can be. And they showed us mercy. You know, they brought us one by one onto the boat. They provided medical aid because we were depleted, drifting out in the ocean. They drug us into Indonesia, where they dropped us off at a refugee camp. They did tell us that if they were going into Vietnam, they would have took us back into Vietnam.
Mm.
But because they were leaving Vietnam, you know, they can't leave us out here. And you know,
I
man,
mean, how fortunate you like that's a series of fortunate events right there, following the most unfortunate of events.
you know what I think about this is when my mother told me this story is that was my first lesson in humanity. You know, and it's played out as a Green Beret, obviously, but that was my first lesson. And you know, everybody, you know, you have your evils and you have your good in this world. It's not divided by a skin color or race or culture.